So the biggest challenge that we see is that college grads say that they are not using the skills that they learned in college in the workforce and lack the skills in order to compete and succeed in the workforce. We see the same thing happening from our employers, and what they're saying is important to them, and then what that difference is from what the skills that they're learning or what they're coming into the workforce. NACE is the National Association of College and Employers, and they put out an employability report on an annual basis, which in turn has caused us to tweak some of our learnings and what we are teaching young professionals to make sure that we're really helping to eliminate that skills gap. High level, this is AMP HQ. This is our software platform that we've created in our mission to bridge the education to employment skills gap with over 50 hours of asynchronous job skills training that's very, very geared towards Gen Z. High level, this is some of the training that we give to our young professionals to prepare them for the workforce, whether we're training them to then place them with internships, or if we're working directly with employers to train and upskill their entry-level hires to get them ready for day one of their jobs. And we hear the same thing from all frustrated managers. They do not feel that our young professionals, not our young professionals, that young professionals who are entering the workforce straight out of college, straight out of high school, or as interns while they are in college, do not have the same willingness and openness to learn that they are expecting them to have. They are not able to work on teams with people from different backgrounds and different ages than themselves. They lack the flexibility and adaptability that's necessary in the workforce. They're not able to deal with ambiguity and change that we all know happens, especially, in the past couple of years, we've seen so much of that. And I think as we continue with this uncertain economic climate, that will only continue. And then, as we all know, and as people for generations have been complaining about the generations before them, they do not have the clear written and oral communication skills that the managers feel that they do or that they're expecting. And so what we'll walk through today is how to address these things, what we're coming to the conversations with, and how to truly work with Gen Zers for a successful and meaningful relationship. So step one is to really understand Gen Z, who they are, and the mindset that they're coming to the workforce in. So first, if this is your first exposure to Gen Zers, it will absolutely not be your last. In the next couple of years, 25% of the entire workforce will be Gen Z, and that it's only going to grow from there. In 5 years after that, all of the managers who are the decision makers and the ones working with the next generation of employees will be Gen Zers. They will be changing things within the workforce. Right now, they're demanding it as they're entering the workforce, and in 5 years or so, they will be making and empowered to make those changes. So it's important for us to understand where they're coming from and not fight this change that's inevitable. So step one, first, is they are the most diverse population in history. They are on track to be the most well-educated as well. And if you think about the mindset that Gen Zers are coming from, everything they do is posted to TikTok or Snapchat or whatever. And so because of that, their entire life, they have had a more diverse feedback loop. You and I, for me, when I was a kid, I, maybe went to the Galleria. I'm in Houston, the Galleria with my friends, or I was in my high school, and everyone has their little bubbles of the people that they surround themselves with. So I was only getting feedback on the things that I was putting out into the world from people who I was physically near. I had email, but that was the extent of my communication with people outside of people that I could see. Now, people are posting videos, they're posting pictures constantly on social media, and they're getting that feedback loop all the time. There's negative and positive to that, which we can have a whole separate webinar about. But the positive when it comes to the workforce is that they are used to getting this diverse feedback of thought. And so it's made them more diverse individuals in the things that they bring to the workforce. Yes, they are more racially diverse, and lots of different diversities are coming into play, but it's also super important to think about the diversity of thought that they are used to. They're used to contributing, they're used to getting that type of feedback, and they're okay with lots of different thoughts and lots of different feedback coming at them at all times. They crave human interaction. Of course, they are tech savvy and they love doing everything online. But at the same time, we are seeing that they are craving more and more face-to-face interactions. And they worry that technology is weakening the ability to have true human and interpersonal relationships. And so it is important to recognize that yes, we all read everything, that like Gen Z wants everything to be remote. And trust me, we see that. And if you've tried to hire interns through our platform and are struggling because the interns want remote internships and you want in person, trust us, we know it and we see it. That said, they do need and crave that human interaction. And so as you are managing them, it is important to give them that time and space to be humans and to give them the time for real live coaching and not just, sending things through email or Slack, especially if they're a remote employee. They are pragmatic. If you think about Gen Zers, people who were born between 1997 and 2012, the things that have shaped their life, 9/11, the Great Recession, COVID, the Great Resignation. I mean, it is a crazy world that they have grown up in. And so it's not safe. Everything is dangerous. Everything that their parents knew or that the generation before them knew is safe and something that you can expect as a norm is something that they have only grown up with, that is not something that's acceptable. And so they rank security in a role, salary, and benefits as a very important factor when they are taking a job. And so there's a lot that we'll talk about of the benefits that they are valuing, but it is really important to understand that they also incredibly value a safe environment, that they know that they can rely on both the company as well as the managers and the support system around them. And they're entrepreneurial. 62% of Gen Zers claim that they want to own their own business one day. Definitely a product of the side hustle and things that we've seen there, but just using that entrepreneurial spirit to your advantage as a manager is very valuable. They take responsibility, they take initiative, they value self-improvement and skills development. They want to work independently, they see a problem and they want to fix it. It can feel really frustrating sometimes as you have processes and ways that you like things to go. And we'll talk about this in a second, but it's just important to remember that this entrepreneurial spirit is something to value in them and not to shame them for, because in a couple of years, we're going to see so much innovation from this generation, and I'm so excited about it, and we don't want to squash it. And entrepreneurialism, I think, will change meanings in what they're not going to all be business owners, or if they are, we've got business owners on the call today, we know that they're not all going to be successful in that, but what that will mean for them and how they show up to work. Maybe they've tried a side hustle and it didn't work. Maybe they come to work every day knowing that they're doing that to make their bigger dreams a possibility, and how you can leverage that in your communications. So what is motivating them? And unlike millennials and the generation before them, it's not the ping pong tables. Facebook, Google, they taught us, let's keep the employees in the office, and it worked. If you think about the generation of millennials, and they graduated or they started their careers during a recession. And so for them, it was like, let me show my value. Let me be in the office. Yes, we needed I'm a millennial. Yes, we needed a gold star for every step of the way, but we wanted to be in the office, prove our value, build relationships there. Gen Zers do not want that. So as much as we've all created ping pong tables and beer 30 and all these reasons to keep people in the office, now we've got to find ways to empower them to be themselves in and out of the office. I'm so sorry for this construction noise that's happening right outside my window. So one thing that is very motivating to them is purpose-driven work. They want to show up in a place that both matters and where they know that their contributions will actually mean something. I'm going to put my headphones in because I don't know if you guys are hearing all of this background noise and I don't want it to be. So they want to show up with, if someone can't hear me, if you could raise your hand so I know. They want to show up with purpose-driven work and know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis is actually contributing to the larger mission of the organization and in some way contributing to the world. Now, that you may say, how can I know that, or how can I make a young professional who's early in their career really feel like what they are doing matters to the overall organization? But it does, and it takes just a couple of seconds to break it down for them and to explain why what they're doing
is important to the overall mission of the company. First, you have to start off by explaining what the purpose of the company is, what the mission is, what the vision is. And then, even if it's taking notes in a meeting, even if it's as simple as that, you can take 2 seconds to say, you know what, by you taking notes in this meeting, it's going to be able to help me follow up from this meeting, which will keep the conversation going with this sales prospect or with this client or whatever. It'll let me stay super focused in the meeting so that I can be in tune to what the customer is saying. And I want you to look at my body language, the way that I'm responding to questions, but you taking notes in this meeting is both preparing you for leading meetings in the future and allowing me to really focus, which allows us to close this sale. That just took less than a minute, but it's going to make them take the best meetings that they've ever taken because now they understand the purpose behind what they're doing and how that maybe drives into the overall mission of the company. They do value a work-life balance. It's mostly because of the things that matter to them are not necessarily about being in the office, but things that are outside of the office. So understanding that, not just recognizing it, but accepting it and allowing the rest of the organization to also take advantage of those same benefits. It is important, and I think that Gen Z is teaching the generations that came before them a lot of great lessons about how we can have better work-life balance and how that's important, and using technology to allow that. You can leave in the middle of the day to go do something because you can still be online as long as it's very, very clear what the expectations are and what that departure from the office might do as a greater impact to the rest of the organization. Paid time off and flexibility is important. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is very important to this generation. Again, when I was talking about the diversity of thought that they're all coming in with, they value that and they want to make sure that the organizations that they're working with and for value that as well. And it can't just be saying it. It can't just be lip service. You actually have to put your money where your mouth is and show that you are recruiting diversity, that you are allowing those diverse people to be in the meetings and to have a say in the decisions, to go up in leadership, to have the opportunities to participate, to go to additional trainings, whatever it is, you've got to actually show it. Clear understanding of impact, I also have kind of already addressed that as well. Again, feel free to ask any questions if you have any. And supporting the side hustle. They will have the side hustle. They will be doing these kinds of things. So as much as you can do to acknowledge that, help support it, and make sure that they don't feel like you need to do it behind your back, will help keep them motivated and honest with you. So just quickly understanding the generations, baby boomers, they care about retirement and healthcare benefits right now. I'm going to speed through this a little bit so we can get to the meat. Gen Xers, they care about retirement planning. They're starting to care for their parents or the generations above them. They've got the flexibility of schedule maybe. So they're like, hey, these Gen Zers know what's up with the work-life balance. I want some of that. And now they have more disposable income, probably more flexibility in schedule, and they're valuing vacation time. Millennials, they are thinking about student loan repayment. They want those flexible schedules as well. Possibly like parental leave, that's where they are in their life, and they are thinking about career advancement. And then Gen Zers, as I mentioned, they want those traditional benefits, they want the flexible schedules and mental health, and then the benefits that support diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, so now we understand the generations. And now how do we best work with them? What are some tips for working with Gen Z? First, you want to have a clear work schedule. Every day, a set daily routine and clear location expectations, especially if you're working in a hybrid environment or in a remote environment. By just saying like, oh, I'm available between the hours of 9 and 5 is not clear enough of what your expectations are for that young professional to show up and when they need to be accountable. So by setting a daily routine, I need you available and online between the hours of 9 and noon every day. At 9 a.m., we're going to have a check-in every day just to talk about what the expectations are for the day. It'll be 5 minutes. And at that time, that will be on Zoom. I expect you to be on Zoom and then to come into the office by 10:30 or whatever it is, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, I need you in the office. Being very, very clear about your expectations is important. They do not want to ask questions. They do not want to feel like they don't know and not come across as a confident individual. And so by setting that and by laying that out at the beginning, you will clarify a lot of expectations. Sorry, Denise is sneaking out of there. You will clarify a lot of expectations and save yourself some headaches down the road because they just didn't ask and you just didn't say it. You want to communicate deadlines very, very clearly. I used to say ASAP all the time. I would say, oh, I just need this as soon as possible. Thanks for getting that to me as soon as you can. That does not work with Gen Zers. They need a clear deadline. And I find extra benefit in laying that deadline out for them so that they understand why I need that deadline and what else is contributing to that. Again, going back to like, they want to understand the general impact that they're making to the organization. So as an example, let's say I need a deliverable from someone, an entry-level employee by noon on Tuesday. This is the way it would work. Hi, here's what I need from you. I would like to see a first draft of this by Friday end of day so that I have time on by Monday morning to get back to you with my feedback. When I get back to you with that feedback, I expect us to get on a call and talk through that feedback by Monday at noon. You implement that feedback by Monday end of day, and then I need the final deliverable in my hand by Tuesday at noon. The reason I need that in my hand by Tuesday at noon is I have to turn that into my boss or my shareholders or whoever by Tuesday end of day, and I'm in meetings and I need a little bit of time to review that. Again, that took about 45 seconds for me to lay that out, but now that individual understands that they cannot be late on that deadline, what the general impact is to the organization, who else is involved in the whole process, and what our check-in points are and what that expectation is. 45 seconds, I understand that feels frustrating and that feels like a lot of extra time, but trust me, it's worth it because you are training them on how to set deadlines, on how to time box their calendar, and how to overall meet deadlines because it's different than what they've done in school so far. As they go through this general transition, they are shifting from an I to we mentality. A lot of what we talk about in our training with the young professionals, but it's a natural transition and that's happening at this stage of their life as they are recognizing that this is not about me anymore. My parents care about my success. My teachers care about my success. The president of my university cares about my success. And then I go into the work world, no one cares about my success anymore. And I have to figure that out for myself. I am the only one who cares about what comes next for me. And so I have to now be my own champion. It's a hard transition to go through. You went through it when you got into the work world. So did I. And every single person does, whether you realize it or not. But just recognizing that they're going through that and that they are starting to understand this major shift is important. And I think it helps set you up for success as a manager of just understanding the psychology that they're going through. So as you understand that, it just helps you to be a little bit more empathetic with the situation at hand and how to communicate some of these things to them. So talking back to that entrepreneurial spirit, my recommendation is to offer guidance, make them do it your way one time, and then let it go. See what kinds of feedback they have, what kinds of new processes they can implement. They can Google anything, they can figure anything out on YouTube, and they will have great ideas for new ways of doing things. But first, make them do it your way once. Offer the guidance. I do a lot of videos of like how to do certain things so that young professionals can see, since they may not be sitting right next to me, my young professionals can see, this is the way that I put a content calendar together. It's maybe a 15-minute video as I'm putting it together, but so they can see the way that I organize things and the way that I put it all together. I was going to do that for them anyways, but by creating that video so that they can watch it helps them be able to do it next time. I've set the expectation, I've shared my way of doing it, I've made them do it my way. And then if they have a better way, great. I want to see it. I want to hear it. I'm not going to necessarily say yes to it, but I absolutely want to see their ideas. Tips for clear communication with our Gen Zers. So how many times can I say establish expectations early? Consider asking them to write down what their expectations are from the beginning of the internship so that you can both make sure that those expectations are aligned for what you expect out of them as well. We will get to this, I think, but we like to do 30, 60, 90 check-ins as well. And we suggest our employee or partners do this too, so that you are setting expectations of where you want them to be in 30 days, in 60 days, and in 90 days. And then it's written down, both parties agree to it, and then you can check in on it and see how both parties are doing as you go through the months together. Expect mistakes. You made mistakes in your first job. And so setting timelines appropriately and giving feedback accordingly of what those mistakes are will only help to set both of you up for a much better working relationship. Make sure that nothing you're asking of them is like, you're getting it back minutes before you have to give it to a client or a stakeholder, because yeah, they're going to make mistakes. But then once they make that mistake, make sure that they understand the clear process so that mistake does not happen again. Encourage dialogue, feedback, and brainstorming. As I mentioned, they're going to have some great ideas and ones that you haven't thought of before. So encouraging that and making a safe space where your interns or your entry-level professionals are going to feel comfortable giving you that feedback, having that dialogue with you, asking questions is only going to make them all that more productive. You might ask, like, what do you think about doing it this way? I'm open to other ideas. What do you think? If you want to really foster that communication. When you're giving them feedback, be direct. As I mentioned, I like to make videos so that I'm very clear, or as clear as possible. If I have any of my employees listening, I try to be as clear as possible when giving those that direction and sharing examples of what my expectations are so that they can take my approach and then do it differently if they need to. But again, I'm setting that very clear expectation. Be open to questions and actually listen to their questions. So don't just repeat what you said. Think about why they might be asking a question and listen to the way that they're asking it as well. And see if you can pick up on some of the clues of the ways that they're asking those questions so that you can maybe explain something differently. If they're asking the same question over and over again, think you need to do some self-reflecting. They're probably not understanding the way that you're explaining it. And, this is just something personal that I have found with entry-level professionals, not just Gen Zers, but forever in my career, that if you cannot be present in the meeting, it is worth it to reschedule. The downside of your lack of presence in the conversation will foster more frustration than it will to just reschedule. So my recommendation, even if it's just a 5-minute check-in, if you need a couple of minutes to decompress or come back to the conversation, you do want to give feedback and have those conversations as soon as possible, but only when you're able to be fully present. All right, so some onboarding tips. There's a lot of words on these slides. This is all recorded, and we will be sending out the slides following the webinar. So I'm not going to waste your time talking through this, but we do recommend to keep interviewing as part of the onboarding. Keep asking them questions, continue getting to know them, and make sure that you are building an environment that will be most successful to them, and also so that you can understand what their key motivators are so that you can create a successful experience for yourself as well. If they are connected to the overall organization, we've talked about connecting them to the impact of what they're doing, but as they're connected to the rest of the organization, they will continue to be more impactful as well. So, a company directory with pictures and maybe a little snippet about each of the employees so that when they're talking to them on Slack or when they're in a meeting with them, it helps them to feel connected to those individuals faster, to learn the names faster. It's something that everyone can get involved with through a Google Doc of just put your headshot and a quick bio and some fun facts about yourself there. It'll be a really great onboarding tool for entry-level professionals. A new hire buddy is a great way for them to have someone who's not their direct manager as someone that they can ask questions to. And then, a social media welcome is always going to feel good. Oh, and shadowing. So, we like to say in the first week, really low expectations, or even the first 2 weeks, have really low expectations of what they're going to do. Week 1 is syllabus week, where you learn a lot about the organization. You get all the brain dumps. You get outlines of expectations. You meet with your manager a bunch. Week 2, maybe 1 or 2 projects, but a lot of shadowing, just sitting with different people within the organization to really understand what it is they do, how they talk about different things, who they're interacting with, the things that they care about, what stresses them out and keeps them up at night will help them to just understand what all is happening within the organization. Sharing expectations. So both of you guys sharing short and long-term expectations and goals for the role. So if it's a short-term role, part-time, say, what do I expect from you at the end of 60 days? And then the young professional sharing, what do I expect to get out of this organization or out of this experience? It is possible that they are not aligned. And so by talking about that at the very beginning of onboarding will help you reset those expectations and make sure that if they are expecting something different, you can either tell them, hey, this may not be the right role for you. Or if they're expecting to get a full-time job, laying out for them, great, I need you to do these 15 things in the next 60 days. That's important to me. And as you accomplish those things, then these are the things above and beyond that we'll be looking at that will lead to a full-time job offer. And then a clear check back in plan. Talked about this 30, 60, 90 plan as well. In the first 30 days, the goal is to understand the company. The first 60 days, understand the processes. And then by 90 days, we should be able to expect autonomy in the tasks, but making sure that the tasks are appropriate to the level of experience that they have. Here's just some great project examples. Take a screenshot of this. These are just things that we like to encourage our employers to have their interns or entry-level employees do in the first 30 days. It's work that needs to be done anyways. It's a great way for them to have the opportunity to get experience and an understanding of the role as well as the organization. And so here's just, these are some of the most successful tasks that we've seen our interns take part in. And then sharing feedback is always an important part of the overall experience. Three-pronged. One is real-time feedback. Giving that real-time feedback in the moment is super beneficial to ensure that you're capturing it as soon as they're thinking about whatever the experience is. So you'll always want to start with the positive, identify your purpose, say, hey, you did a great job in that meeting. I only want you to get better. So I'm going to give you some feedback here. Can we have 15 minutes so that I can share some feedback of how that meeting was handled and ways I think you can improve? Maybe I didn't give in self-reflection. Maybe I didn't give you enough coaching and guidance going into the meeting. Maybe I didn't explain enough of who those different stakeholders were. So let me take the time now. But I want to be very clear that this did not go well. I'm just giving feedback as an example. This did not go well. I wish that you had done X, Y, and Z. Here's why that impacts both you as well as the organization and how it made you kind of come across during that meeting. In the next meeting that we have next week with this client, here's how I want you to handle it. And here's how we'll measure if this was successfully accomplished. See, I'm not shaming them. I'm just explaining what they did, how they can do it differently. Took a little responsibility on it for myself and giving them another chance to do it better next time. I like to document all of my communications with employees as well, all that feedback, so that it's clear to me and them of what those expectations are. And I remember, because I'm going to forget, to follow up on that next time. So on a weekly basis, through each weekly check-in, I just have a Google Doc that I keep track of everything in, write down specifics, both positive and negative, of how they're making progress towards their goals, as well as any feedback that I've given them. And I take note of the action plan. And always give kudos for progress. As you see improvements, give them that pat on the back. Don't give them kudos for fake praise, because Gen Zers definitely do not like that. And also take note of their personality style and what type of feedback would be most meaningful to them. So as I close, 45% of entry-level employees leave their first jobs in the first 6 months, costing employers at least 33% of their salary. It is not something that any of us can and should afford. And so, we want to help you guys. We want to help be a resource to you throughout your onboarding experience, especially with entry-level employees. We've got a great new tool. So all the training that we give to our professionals, we do now offer that direct to employers that you can take advantage of, even if you haven't hired your talent through us. So if you're interested, happy to share more. I'll drop a link to that landing page in the chat here. And I'm around. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to either type it in here and I will address it to the whole group. But thank you all so much for attending. It was really great seeing so many new and familiar faces here, and look forward to working with you guys and supporting you in your new hires in the months to come. Have a great summer. All right, we don't have any questions. I'll give it just another minute in case anyone is hanging out. There we go. Sounds like they really, so someone asked, they want to know the why of tasks. Is that correct? It is. And there's a lot of psychology that's gone into it, but a lot of it is just that they want to be connected. They, especially if they're remote, especially because they've just like been in this remote environment and because they can Google everything always. They want to have these deeper connections to everything in their lives. It's contributing to some positive things in the world, as they, are they're just politically involved. Like they're just doing so much. And it's because they want these deep, deep connections. And that also is to their employers, to their managers, and to the organizations. And so by helping them form those deeper connections, by answering that why, will help them feel that deep connection to you and let you get that much more out of them as employees. Great. Well, with that, I will end the webinar. Thank you all so much. I think we are going to do these on a pretty regular basis with different tips that you can use with your young professionals. So tune back in. We'll continue sending emails about it. And thanks so much.